Hello fun people, I'm Isaac Carlson and I'm focused on spreading magic by discussing Disney, DreamWorks, and animation, and today we're going to understand the tragedy of Lord Shen. Finally, we're going to go through every phase of his life to understand this extremely complex, misguided, and lost villain. And of course, if you're new here and you'd like to join this community of Kung Fu warriors, then consider subscribing. And if you'd like to talk about the devious Shen more and want to hang out with me, I'm streaming every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday over on Twitch, which will be linked down below. Lord Shen was born to the rulers of Gongmen City, a place of joy and prosperity as well as the home of beautiful fireworks. When Shen was older, he would reminisce about playing by his father's throne when he was growing up, and that he was always told that one day he would inherit the responsibility of sitting upon it, though that day would never come, for Shen would follow another path. Until his crossroads would come though, Shen lived as a noble prince who was draped in silks, was likely highly educated, and was instructed to become a capable warrior who was watched over by his nanny, who would later just be known as the soothsayer. That's one of those facts that I found on this old DreamWorks website, so it's not one of those things that I really was aware of until I started looking into Shen's story. While his parents and the citizens of Gongmen City adored their fireworks, when Shen was growing up, he studied them and eventually learned to unlock the destructive power that existed within them. Concerned for their son's growing darkness within his heart, Shen's peacock parents consulted the soothsayer, who predicted that if Shen continued to pursue this dark track moving forward, he would be stopped by a warrior of black and white. In essence, a panda would stand between Shen and everything he was seeking. Learning of this prophecy and internalizing his desire to take so much more than the Gongmen City throne, Shen set out with a pack of wolf soldiers to wipe out the nearby and prominent panda village in hopes of ensuring that he would never be able to be stopped. Shen desperately attempted to change his fate, but of course, as Master Oogway had once explained, that was impossible. And personally, I love this connection to the philosophy of the original Kung Fu Panda.
One often meets his destiny on the road he takes to avoid it.
The parallels between Shifu attempting to continue to restrain Tai Lung and Shen attempting to alter his fate and not be stopped by Po are amazing to be able to witness. Shen and his warriors burned down the village and slaughtered the pandas who lived there. Families were destroyed, children's lives were taken, and it seemed like pandas were erased from the world, even though some did survive. A child originally named Lotus had his father and mother protect him, while that panda's father fought off the wolves and was able to retreat to a hidden panda village in the mountains. His mother hid him in a radish crate that would later be sent to the Valley of Peace. Unknown to Shen, that panda would be the one who had been foretold to bring his undoing. Feeling satisfied though with his efforts, Shen returned to the Gongmen City palace only to find his parents in horror of the atrocities that he had committed. While Shen felt pride in his accomplishments, his family could see through what he had done. Shen had transformed himself into a genocidal, blinded murderer, but even still, his parents' disapproval damaged him to the core. While Shen was only attempting to bolster his legacy, he was really only tarnishing his life forever. In response to Shen's deeds, his parents banished him from his home, and he was left feeling unloved, unappreciated, and despised.
My parents hated me. They wronged me. And I will make it right.
From that day on, Shen was really unable to take responsibility for his mistakes. He had little empathy for his parents and what they had to go through because of his actions, and instead only continued to move forward with his own devastation in his heart. This inevitably resulted in his parents dying of broken hearts themselves.
They loved you. They loved you so much that having to send you away killed them.
It was becoming clear to the world that Shen's white color, which often is meant to symbolize purity in Western culture, was truly taking on the symbolism within the Chinese culture. His white color symbolizes death. That symbolism, paired with his name translating in English to divinity, deity, spirit, God, or deep thought, revealed that he was a person who had come to believe that he was above the consequences of the world after he caused the destruction of so many lives. But his mistakes would only continue. After swearing he would return to Gongmen City and bring everyone within China to bow at his feet, Shen led his followers to the mountainsides where he constructed a massive factory. There, he built metal weapons from the resources of nearby villages that were capable of utilizing the destructive powers of fireworks. In Shen's mind, he held on to the belief that enough of these weapons would allow him to make China his. What I find particularly fascinating about Shen is how he seems so tormented and fixated on the past to inform his next steps. He just seems like he can't separate himself from the person his parents saw him to be and the glory that he wanted for himself as a young peacock. When I watch Shen, I just can't seem to pull myself away from watching him because it seems like there's just so much pain and madness behind every action. We can tell he's so intelligent, but he doesn't have any wisdom, so he's just kind of this misdirected warrior who's unwilling to change. I think Shen really rises to be one of my favorite villains in the Kung Fu Panda saga because of all of these complexities within him and his focus on changing the future without realizing the only way he can do that is by altering himself in the moment. He's unwilling to break away from the tracks that he set out for himself.
The dead exist in the past, and I must attend to the future.
And he's also so captivating because his role in Po's life is so prominent. Shen and Po's destinies are deeply intertwined since Shen tore Po's family apart. And it wouldn't be until Shen returned to Gongmen City after 30 years of preparation that these two enemies would be drawn to face one another again. Shen's a fascinating character by himself, but he becomes even more intriguing because of how he has shaped Po in the past and is able to continue to teach Po how to move past his own tragedies. When Shen arrived at his ancestral home, he marched to meet the Kung Fu Council, who existed as stewards of Gongmen City. Behind Lord Shen was his army and a single weapon from the massive arsenal he had constructed. After clashing with Thundering Rhino, Storming Ox, and Croc, using his swiftness, agility, blades, metal augmentations, and swordsmanship to his advantage, he is eventually able to overwhelm them by using his own weapon. With the death of Master Rhino, Lord Shen claimed Gongmen City for himself, but regardless of his accomplishment, the soothsayer was able to see that his destiny had not changed, which of course infuriates the peacock.
That's impossible, and you know it.
Soon after this vision, Shen learns that one of the pandas who had escaped his massacre was returning to the city to face him. And while he continued to deny that this could mean that his undoing was still imminent, he also decided to stay on course to unleash his weapons across China, hoping that following his path would be the key to his victory. Shen hoped to prove the soothsayer wrong, so when Po and the Furious Five arrived in the city, he made sure they were hunted down and brought to him. Seeing the goofy, confident, and relaxed Po, Shen continued to deny his destiny, believing he would easily be able to destroy the threat to his empire, but of course he was completely underestimating the might of the Dragon Warrior and the Furious Five. He had no clue what was going to happen when the noodle-loving bear was fighting him and would call out skadoosh. That's always the moment in Kung Fu Panda when everything gets real. Other movies have their taglines, but Kung Fu Panda's is skadoosh. It is the line. But of course, before skadoosh is ever called out, and after Shen learned that Po is unaware of his involvement in the panda's family's destruction, he fled to command his men to take down his parents' palace. Everything that his family had cherished was being demolished by Shen's misplaced commitment to becoming the ruler of China. Especially once Po began to escape his trap, Shen seemed to become obsessed with the death of the panda who was foretold to stop his reign. Lord Shen wanted the Year of the Peacock to begin, but he couldn't see that his scrambling to further his past horrors was going to lead to his undoing. With the panda still alive in Gongmen City, Shen decided to move forward with his plot by preparing his ships, weapons, and wolves to be ready to set out to seize the villages of the world.
You just destroyed your ancestral home, Shen.
A trivial sacrifice, when all of China is my reward.
The soothsayer, now seeing Shen's destructive capability, pled for Shen to stop his mad ambitions, knowing that he'd never be satisfied by the path he continued to go down. But he just can't pull himself away. Watching this emotionally drained villain attempt to destroy everyone around him is so tragic, regardless of how much we all disagree with his actions. His pain, heartbreak, and longing for meaning in his life is felt with every action. Instead of being a villain who loves being evil, it seems like Shen is just trying to fully leverage his position as the monster that he allowed himself to become. Shen desires power, control, and a legacy for himself, but he also seems to hate himself as he does it.
Happiness must be taken, and I will take mine.
As Shen's army prepared his ships, Po came to confront him again, pleading for him to reveal his role in what happened to his parents as they battled. The answers were not revealed though, as this encounter inevitably led to Shen using one of the weapons on the Dragon Warrior, providing Shen the opportunity to imprison the Furious Five and sail his ships. Lord Shen hoped that the death of Kung Fu was imminent.
China will know to bow before me.
Of course though, with the Dragon Warrior surviving the attack on his life, Po frees the five, and with the help of Master Shifu, Ox, and Croc, they battle through the Wolf army and are able to block Shen's fleet from advancing to the harbor. Well, that works until Shen callously takes out the Alpha in the Wolf pack to allow his weapon to break through the barricade and anyone who stood in his way. Amongst the destruction in the harbor though, Po does not submit to Shen, instead rising to face the Lord. Unknown to Shen, the Dragon Warrior had achieved inner peace, meaning when the weapons sent their explosives his way, Po was able to deflect the blast, eventually leading to Po redirecting the weapon's blast back at Shen, resulting in his ships being destroyed and leaving Shen with nothing. Here we see Shen at one of his weakest and most honest places throughout Kung Fu Panda 2, with an understanding that there is no longer a chance on that day that he would be able to rise above China. He desperately attempts to understand how the panda could have continued to fight when Shen had ruined the life he was born into. But even after Po says his piece and attempts to tell him that he chooses who he wants to be every day, Shen won't listen. Instead, Shen continues to keep fighting, scrambling to kill the panda who had undone the destiny he wished for himself. But as he uses his rage, fury, and anger, he doesn't realize that he was cutting the few cords that were keeping the ship together. This resulted in the cannon of his ship to fall on top of him and cause a massive explosion that took his life. To his last breath, Shen hoped to break away from the opinions of his parents and establish a legacy for himself. But at the same time though, we saw Lord Shen be unwilling to break away from his madness as he blindly followed his pride, arrogance, and mistakes until that path led to his downfall. But let me know down below what your thoughts and theories are surrounding Lord Shen. Is he your favorite Kung Fu Panda villain like he is for me? Also make sure to subscribe and click the beautiful bell, and then click on another magical video in the description or on the screen. Finally, as always, thanks for watching and have a magical day.